Before I do that and get into the agenda, just a few announcements I think that you need to be aware of. All of our colleagues who are not based here in Patincheru, we would like to request that you go and have your photograph made at the photography unit sometime during one of the breaks or lunch during this week, so that we can capture your latest image, or at least an image of you if we haven't already. There will be a group photograph of all of us just immediately after this session this morning, so we'll go outside in the front and have a photograph before we have tea and coffee. I think everyone is aware that we're here to do work. One of the reasons that we invested in bringing everyone to headquarters for 5 days was so that we could actually work together. I know that we all have our other jobs, but this week this is our job. And so we really want everyone to pay attention to what the presentations are, attend the sessions, actively participate. I particularly appeal to my Patincheru-based colleagues who I know have temptations to run back to the office and just read the email or sign a few papers. I can assure you that's not your priority. Your priority is to be here participating with all the colleagues from ICRISAT this week. So, what are the objectives for this week? When we got started thinking about whether we wanted a global planning meeting, which as I mentioned earlier was done I guess a couple of years ago in the beginning of 2011, just after we were implementing our new strategic plan to 2020, we all agreed that getting together every other year is quite important for an institute. As you can see, there's well over 100. I think there's about 150 full-time equivalent staff now working for ICRISAT around the world. Getting that number together to really understand how we're doing it together and doing it differently is quite important. But we also realize that it takes us an awful long time to do things like develop work plans for each scientist. And so we thought that we could use this week to really accomplish a couple of tasks. To understand the business that ICRISAT's about, plan for the future, talk about the changes, but as well, make sure that everybody goes away from here understanding what is their work plan for the year, what is the budget that's available for them to do it, and we all understand how that fits together. So really, the first objective, I think, in all of our minds is to have an agreed work plan for all of the scientists that are working for ICRISAT for this year. And if everyone could sign off on that by Friday evening, we will be months ahead of years in the past in terms of having those agreed work plans earlier in the year rather than later. I think we still will be looking at moving them earlier and earlier as we have to address work planning for the CRPs. But this year it'll be quite important to get it done this week. But I think as you know, we now work in a CGIAR research program context, and you're going to hear presentations on the 7 CRPs that ICRISAT participates in after lunch today. And you'll notice, as you probably have, that the work planning is all done in the CRP context. And we've all been involved in defining what is ICRISAT as an institute going to deliver in our part in meeting the objectives and the goals of the CRPs. We need to be assured that we have people working on those. We are not looking for, we don't have any gaps in our expertise, in our research across all of those 7 CRPs. So again, by the end of Friday, if everyone can sign off and say, yes, this is an agreed work plan that we know we will deliver by the end of this year, and those CRPs that we participate in will be very excited about what ICRISAT as an institute is delivering. This will be key because future funding to this institute, particularly through Windows 1 and 2, will be almost entirely based on our performance in CRPs. So knowing what we're doing, being assured that we can do that, and committing ourselves this early in the year is going to be extremely critical. Now, as we know, we're working in CRPs, CGIAR research programs, so we want to spend time to make sure everybody is up to date on the latest occurrences. As Willie mentioned, we have a number of critical focus areas. We want to understand the progress that we're making in those. We want to set those as priorities across all the work plans. So we'll be talking a little bit about where we are, where we plan to be going, and how everybody needs to be involved. We'll also need to be looking at some of the administrative issues around what is happening in human resources, finance management, and our communications across this institute. Finally, it's also obviously a good time for us to meet our new and probably even some old colleagues that you haven't seen for a while, and get to know them both in a more work planning mode, but as well socially. And of course, finally, let's have some fun. We won't try to make it too onerous on you. We will keep you busy, but we will try to have plenty of time to interact socially and get to know one another in that context. Now, the daily agenda today, as you can see, is more a kind of a setting the scene day. We're going to hear some updates from some of our administrative units here in a moment. We'll then spend a session after break really looking at some of the key critical focus areas that we think are quite important, the ones around data management, on the molecular breeding work that we're doing, on impact assessment, and on gender. Because we think it's very important for you to understand where we're going, what the opportunities are, because they will have to be part and parcel of everyone's work plan. And then after lunch, we will be having some overviews of the 7 different CRPs that we're involved in. These will be short and concise, I hope, but they should give you an idea of what has been going on in the CRP, and particularly what is ICRISAT's involvement, because as you know, that's what's going to be setting the stage for each person's work plan for the year. Then tomorrow, starting Tuesday morning through Thursday evening and a bit on Friday morning, we're going to be going through each of those 7 CRPs. Primary purpose of that is to really do it by CRP, because that's really now our modus operandi within the Institute, within the CGIAR. We debated whether we wanted to do things in parallel. We could have saved a little bit of time, but we would have created a lot of confusion and a lot of inability of everyone to participate where they really wanted to participate. And so we've agreed that there'll be no parallel sessions, so that everyone can participate in those CRPs. And in fact, starting tomorrow morning, we encourage and almost want every one of you to participate in the CRP discussions tomorrow, because they'll be very important for us to understand how we're going to go through this process. It's new for all of you. It's somewhat new for those of us in management. And so we think that tomorrow is going to be a learning session to some degree as we try to work through how do you set work plans in CRP context, etc. So we encourage all of you to participate in all of the CRP discussions. Those sessions need to really agree on what is the CRP about, what does it need to be doing, working in partnerships, making sure that we've agreed on the targets that we've set, and we understand the teams that ICRISAT's putting together internally and with our external partners to achieve those goals. So hopefully all of that's going to be done by Friday morning through some very active and intense sessions. These sessions are all going to be taking place over in the conference room of the PTTC, which is just not too far away. And so we look forward to everyone being there starting at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Friday, after we finish up with the gene bank CRP discussion, which we've decided can take place over here in the Bentley conference room, we'll be back in this auditorium, where we'll be looking for some feedback, short feedback from all those 7 CRPs to understand some of the issues that were raised, some agreements as to how they could work together, some thoughts on how we incorporate better partnerships, how we're bringing in the gender equality issues, etc., into the new way of work planning for the year. And then we'll wrap up a little bit about some of the more general issues for the week. Now, to kind of break things up, we started a tradition, and I think at the last meeting, if not before, that we will have lunch starting tomorrow in the field, as we call it. This is to allow the staff, not only from our Africa locations, but I think even for many of you here in Patanchero, to see a little bit of what's going on campus. So we've picked 3 locations. We're visiting the Rainout Shelter. We're going to be visiting the World Vegetable Center field sites, and we're going to go see the Iraqi's house and the FACE facility. on this campus. And so we'll be leaving here from the PTTC about noon. Be having buses that will take us to those locations. The scientist that's involved in that field site will give us a very brief overview of the kind of research that's undertaken there. Then we'll have a lunch, very informally, and a chance to not only talk to the scientists that are working there, more ideas exchanged, but as well to interchange in a slightly different venue than the 204 banquet hall, where we all know how to have lunch or have meals. This will give us a different venue to do that. So everyone will be expected to be ready to go to lunch at noon sharp. We'll be back in our meetings hopefully as close to 1 as we can. We'll also have, of course, lunch today and Friday, but those venues will be in the 204 banquet hall. Dinners each night are going to be at various locations. I haven't had a chance to talk with Robbie this morning, but I believe the dinner tonight will be out in the iMode Plaza. But then after that, we probably will move it around in a few other venues on campus to change those from day to day. Friday night dinner will be at the Konark House, where everyone's invited, because I think we will be due a good closing dinner by then after a week's worth of work. So that's the agenda for the week. We want to keep it informal, but we also have a lot going on, so we request that everyone pay attention to the timings, be present 5 minutes before we're supposed to start, active participation in all of the meetings, etc., because we have a lot to do, but we need all of your input and feedback to do it most effectively. So thank you very much.